Hello! Wait, let me just check on the health of the stream. And then I'll start. Hold on a second. I'll just be tweeting out that we've started the workshop, and then I'll introduce myself and introduce the event, and then we're gonna start. Okay. Actually, I have to announce it in the school block first. Students. The workshop is starting. Copy that. Oops. Register to get in. Hello! I'm not gonna add a picture on that. Okay. And then I'm gonna tweet it out, so... Alright. So, let's start! Also, hello! To everyone in the Zoom meeting and also the YouTube chat. Hello! Okay, let me introduce myself and this event. Welcome to Second Dimension. Today, I'll be giving you a tour and a tutorial on how to get into the VTubing industry as a Live2D rigger. Alright, so we'll move on to the second slide. I'm your host Tuyo. I'm a dried fish VTuber. I'm an illustrator. I'm an illustrator and also an animation student in CIIT. I've been doing Live2D for 2 years now. I started in 2020. I was also in charge of making our school mascots, which are also VTubers, Shisui and Eve Move. Alright. So, if you see that little scrungly in the corner of your screen, I made that, and it's currently tracking my face right now. So, if it stopped tracking, it's because it has my microphone at this in front of me. So that might be the reason why it's not tracking. Alright. Next up, sponsor! Alright. So, we have a sponsor. Our sponsor for this event is Gacha. Gacha is CIIT's media-centered Asian culture club. Talk about your niche little gacha games in anime and all sorts of Eastern media with Gacha. Check out Gacha Club's first ever content, the Touching Grass podcast. Link will be in the description of the YouTube video. And yeah, look forward to the next episode of that podcast too. So now that's out of the way, I'm gonna show some disclaimers for those in the meeting. Alright, before we start, sorry for that. I don't have it on presentation mode. Hello! So, registration. I don't know how many of us are in the meeting, but first disclaimer, all those in the meeting, minus the members of my group who are managing this event, should be registered first, so make sure you're registered. I'm going to be copying the link for the registration form, and yeah, please answer it because we need to keep track of who to give the certificates of participation for. Alright, I'll be putting it in chat. Make sure to answer. Thank you! Alright, so next up, files needed. Do you have your model prepared? Do you have your files. Make sure you have your Live2D download. Make sure you have Live2D downloaded, and make sure you also have your files downloaded to use Live2D. And this is a Live2D workshop after all, and you can follow along and learn. So make sure you have your model, and if you don't have one, we do have 2 models that you can choose from a drive link that I'll be sending in the chat box right now. Give me a second. Okay. Drive. I forgot where it is. Second. Oopsies. It's not showing up on my quick search. So let me pull up the Google Drive because it's gonna take a while. It's okay. There's gonna be a VOD for this event that I have streamed on YouTube. Okay, so let me share the model files real quick. Alright, so... Oh, where do you download Live2D? Live2D is fairly easy to download. Here you go. I'll also be sending that. Oh, thank you, Andre, for sending the link in the Zoom chat box. Yeah. Alright. I think that's all the disclaimers, and we can officially start the event from here. And if you do need time to install all the files, I will give time. Maybe like 10 minutes. Or 3 minutes or 5 minutes even. So yeah. I'll be taking a sip of some water. Alright. Alright, that should be good now. But so let's start with importing your models. So obviously this is like the first part, and sadly we're not gonna be tackling how to make a model, because this is gonna be a rigging workshop mostly. But I will be giving tips at the end of the workshop on how to make one, and I'm sure the sample models should give you an idea of how to cut up those rigs. Alright, so importing your models. Alright, so when you open up Live2D, it's gonna look a lot like Fire Alpaca, if you've used that program before. There's file edit and all the other stuff that's kind of different from all the other programs. File and edit are still the same, but we'd like to go to file and then open, and then we're gonna be opening the thing that we want to the model that we want to open up, which is a PSD file, by the way. So I'm gonna switch screens to Live2D. Alright. There we go. Hold on a second. File is basically... I already have it open up, but I will show you where it is. And it's on the top left. It's on the top left corner of your screen. And it says File. If you click on it, it has the word Open. Oh my lord. Open. That's a little too zoomed in. Alright. And then clicking Open, you should have a... By clicking Open, you should have a PSD file on your folder. And that's going to be what you're going to be using to model. Now that you have a model imported, next thing we'll be doing is setting up a mesh. And let me move back. It's gonna be setting up a mesh. Alright, how do we set up a mesh? And what is a mesh? Well, a mesh is... well, if you look at Live2D as a program, Live2D is actually a 3D program, even though you're using PNGs and the layers of your PSD. It's basically a program that turns all the layers of the PSD file into a 3D object. And a mesh is basically putting polygons and whatever is gonna make your... It's gonna be like a skin-like thing, pretty much. Alright, so there's two ways on how to set up your mesh, but one of these we'll be using because it's easier and much more worth it. But we can edit this later on, and you can choose, you can experiment with the program if you want to. So the two types of mesh, the two ways you can set up your mesh is manual mesh setup and also automatic mesh setup. Also, I need to make sure my microphone is actually outputting on the stream. Alright. So we have that. And I'm gonna hop back into Live2D to... I'm gonna hop back into Live2D to show you how it's done. Alright, so we have our model here. And if you see, if you hover over any of the layers, it's gonna show up as a box. So what we want to do is click Ctrl A and click this button right here. I think I don't have to zoom it in because it's already on 1080p, but it's the third button on the line of buttons above your canvas. Hold on. There's someone we need to admit. Can one of my group members admit those, please? Thank you! Alright. Hello, Agua! So, next thing we want to do is set up a mesh. And we're just gonna click it, and it's gonna open a window. So, I'm gonna show the window real quick. This is the window. And it's gonna say preset, and we want to click on deformation little. And we can still, I know it's the lowest, this is gonna help with our CPU usage by setting the mesh as little. I think some of us here are animations, 12 animation students who are learning 3D modeling. So I think a lot of us know what happens when there's a lot of polygons inside of the program. And as I said, Live2D is a 3D program. It just turns PNGs into 3D. Alright. So we want to click on little. We don't want to set anything because these are presets after all. Right now, the rig is looking like a spawn of Satan. So we're gonna click off of that. And we have our mesh. As you see, we have little triangles. We have little triangles on our model now rather than squares. These will be the ones that help us move these. Also, along with learning how to set up the mesh, I'm gonna teach you how to clip layers because that's gonna be helpful at in doing it at the start. So I want to demonstrate it by showing you what I mean by needing to clip things, and that's because if you draw on CSP or anything like that, you might have this clipped on the white part of the eyeball, and this is gonna be very awkward to have it overlap with the pupils and stuff. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to clip it. So you wanna, I don't know how to say this, but you have to click the white part of the eye. And we're gonna focus on the window that says inspector. And this is that window. Okay. Oh. It's gonna be this window right here. So we're gonna be hold on. We're gonna be selecting the white part. And we're gonna click the ID. And then you just copy it, Control-C. I spam my Control-C to make sure I have it selected. And we want to take the thing that we want to clip it in, and then go to Clipping ID. Wait. Let me zoom it in for you guys. It's around... Oh. It's around Okay, OBS is being very funky with me. And I don't know what I moved there. Give me a second. So we want to focus on the inspector window. Also, hello Python in the chat. Here we go. We're gonna be focusing on the inspector window, and now that we have the ID of the last layer we were on copied, we're gonna paste it on the clipping ID. Now, when we go back... Oh, what happened? I didn't even notice. Control V, and then click enter to make sure that it's actually on there. So we're gonna... Hold on a second as I reset our frame. So now... Oh, I think I selected the wrong layer. Make sure you don't do that. And then we go back to clipping ID and then click enter. I think I did the wrong thing again. Alright. Control C and then go back to the thing. Control V and then enter. Okay, nothing happened, but I assure you there is something that happened. And now your pupil is not gonna overlap it. Also, make sure you don't play around with it too much. We want it to be in the same position as much as possible. Alright. So I'm gonna do that to the other eye real quick. And I'm gonna copy the ID of the bottom piece, or the eye, the white part of the eye. And then the pupil that we want to clip it in. That's not it. It's over here. And now it's not gonna overlap, which is good. that looked a little creepy, but there's one more thing I want to clip. Actually, two more things. And that's this weird part here, which is supposed to be a tooth. So I'm gonna copy the... By the way, when you're selecting your layers, you want to use the parts window, which is at the... usually at the leftmost part, which I'm gonna crop it in right now. It's usually in the leftmost part of the window. There's a part that says Deformer, and it's gonna show all your layers in blue. But we don't want to focus on that at the start of the process. You want to focus on the parts first. Alright, so we're gonna go to the layer that we want to choose. Also, it's much easier to choose, not all the time, but it's much easier to choose your layers through the parts window rather than choosing from the canvas. So we Control C, and then the thing we want to clip, Control V, now that that's not overlapping. We also want to clip one more thing, the one last thing we want to clip, if you have anything like this. And this is the highlights of the hair. Now, also, if you did not realize, there is a blending mode in... There is in fact a blending mode in Live2D, and I'm going to show you that right now. So it says normal, but we're going to set it as additive. There is a blending mode for that, and I'm also going to show you guys how to set up multiple clipping layers. So if you want your object to clip into more than one thing, I'm gonna teach you that. So where is it? I forgot. Okay, there we go. Transform, reset. There we go. Now we have that. We set it to additive. Now it's a different color. I also want to lower this. We can also lower the opacity. The opacity for this is currently... It's just above the blend mode. So I'm gonna click 15. I'm gonna put in 15 because it was on 22 and it's a little too bright and a little too noticeable. So the thing we want to clip the highlights in, because the highlights are not inside of the hair at the moment. So we want to click the thing we want the highlight to be in. So we get the ID, not the name of the layer, okay? the name, the ID. It's below the name and the inspector window. So we want to get that. And then we go to the highlight layer. I'm just gonna select it from the parts window. And I'm gonna input it into the clipping ID. Now it's only clipping to the bangs, which we don't want. We want to clip it to the back of the hair as well. Okay, I double clicked on accident. We get the ID of the back of the hair, Control C, and then we go to the clipping ID. If we Control V, that's not gonna work, by the way. This is like code in a way. You just click space, add a comma, another space, and then V, and then enter. So that's how we clip multiple layers. That's how we clip one layer into multiple layers, basically. So now it's not gonna overlap the hair, but it's still gonna overlap the face though, sadly. That's because the hair is actually it's still behind the face. Now I don't know where it went. I don't know exactly what I did. There we go. Okay, now it's back. Now we're back. Alright. Now that we have a mesh and we have all our things clipped, the next thing we want to do is... Alright. Next thing we want to do are... Deformers! So, for Deformers, we actually have a special guest. And that is... MwisterCrunchy. So, who is MwisterCrunchy? Let's get to know him. MwisterCrunchy is a Live2D buzz creator. They're also a member of a Live2D called Rigor Mortis. And they have been rigging since 2020, so that's 2 years now. Okay, so I'm gonna be playing an audio recording that they have, so you guys can listen along. I'm just gonna check if you guys can hear the audio, okay?
Hey there everyone, my name is Crunchy.
Can you guys hear that?
I've been a freelancer in the VTubing scene since late 2020 and have received a Live2D Creator Buzz Award for my work. Today I'll be talking about deformers and the many ways to use them. They're the main way you'll be controlling how your art moves in Live2D Cubism. They can be used in many ways, to distort, adjust, or add physics to your objects, and more. We'll be covering the basics, ways to use them, and tips and tricks with them. But first, we'll go over the hierarchy. The hierarchy used in Cubism is a parent-to-child descending relationship where a parent deformer may have multiple child deformers, but child deformers can only have a single parent. If you set up a warp deformer to control other warp deformers, it will be the parent. The other deformers will be the children to that deformer. Once you get the hang of how deformers interact with other deformers in this hierarchy chain, you'll have a good portion of Cubism down. Let's go over what makes warp deformers special. They basically can be used as a universal one-fits-all solution for getting where your keyframe should be. They're grids defined by points, set by width and height, with a minimum width and height of 2. You can control them by moving individual vertices or using a similar grid of Bezier curves. The main limitation with warp deformers are their size and how they should be positioned in the hierarchy. Let's say you have two warp deformers, Warp A and Warp B. Warp B has a 2x2 grid and is a child of Warp A with a 5x5 grid. Warp A would have limited motion due to its smaller grid size, and Warp A would affect it less. If it were the other way around, with Warp A being parent to Warp B, they would adjust to each other better. Any point being an art mesh vertice, warp vertice, or rotation point that goes outside of the bounds of a warp may have different results from as expected. To prevent any issues with extruding vertices, make sure to size your parent deformers to the range of their children's motion, and to turn on highlight vertices which stick out from the parent deformer in your top menu under Show. Rotation deformers are a lot simpler than warp deformers. They only do 4 things with a single point on your canvas: rotate, reposition, scale, and change the opacity of its children. This is better for rotating multiple elements, like how a neck would rotate all parts of a head. Nothing can extrude from a rotation deformer. They're amazing at being top-level parent deformers. They're great for setting up physics or movement for arms, necks, legs, and torsos. Their main limitation is that they can be limiting as child deformers. Once a rotation deformer goes under a warp deformer, only the most basic things can happen to that rotation now. The rotation deformer can be adjusted by the warp deformer, but anything under it will only be affected by its rotation and position of that deformer. There are a couple of fun tips and tricks that apply to both deformers. One of the most important tips to have on hand is to change default deformers. With the Control key, you can adjust the rotation's default rotation and position and a warp's rotation, position, scale, and general makeup of its grid. Adjusting these default states give you better control over what you'll be using that warp for. Another good tip for beginners is to know that there is a locked default deformer setting which can be turned on in the parameter menu. This prevents you from adjusting the deformer on default keyforms. Everyone has trouble with this, from the beginners to the best of us. No worries if you need to turn this on or make this mistake often. One of the most underappreciated functions in Cubism is the blend shape function. This can be found in the modeling menu's Edit Shape submenu, the names Copy Shape, Paste Shape, and Blend Shape, or activated with Ctrl-Shift-C, V, and B. This can be used to copy one shape and blend the shape to another key, which is very useful when you want to push face angles or find the just right point between two keyforms you are blending with. Another commonly unused but useful function is the pass down function. Say you did your left head turns on one deformer and your up and down head turns on another deformer. You can use the delete deformer and pass down parameters to child component to move all keys you want to put on its parent deformer to immediate child deformers. Warning, this deletes the parent deformer and any work you had done on it prior. This can be undone, but watch out. A great way to deform your warp meshes is with temporary deform tools. You can find these tools in the modeling menu under the temporary deform submenu. There are 7 types of temporary deforms: enlarge and shrink, rotation, perspective, distort, free transform, temporary warp deform, and temporary path deform. These all allow for better control of the deformer editing outside of just Bezier curve handles and warp vertices. Give them all a try and see how they feel in your workflow. A great function to add to your workflow is the Reflect Motion tool. This tool is used to reflect deformation on one keyform to its opposing keyform on the same parameter. A major example of this being used is for face angles. If you do your right head angle on the right angle X key, you can reflect that motion to the left angle X keyform, which avoids rework or non-symmetrical head turns. These reflective forms can be adjusted afterwards as well, so anything that should be asymmetrical just needs minor adjustments. That's a quick talk on deformers and how to use them. Thank you, Gaia, for having me today.
Alright, so I really should have put it after the demonstration part of deformers, but I'll be simplifying everything that was said, so here we go. Alright, so as Crunchy said, there is a deform hierarchy. So that means, it's a very weird way to explain it, but the deform hierarchy basically means you can't make deformers by making, you can't make deformers that have deformers selected. So let's say I have a, wait, no, if you double click, that happens, by the way. So you just click the check button if you got confused by what that was. So let's use the two deformers here. So where are the deformer tools? The deformer tools are actually around up here. They're actually up here. Oh gosh. I should really lock that. So the deformers are these 3 in the middle. Hold on. These 3 here. The one on the leftmost are your warp deformers. So as I said, as Crunchy said, there are 2 deformers. There are the warp deformers and also the rotation deformers. Warp deformers are gonna serve as the mesh transform tool in CSP basically. And actually, let me turn up the BGM. The warp deformer is kind of like the mesh transform in CSP, or like a transformation tool, but it has like 6 points actually. Well, more than 6 points sometimes, but sometimes 6 points. And the rotation deformer is gonna serve as a joint, kind of like our arms, our hands, our legs, and our neck. As they said, those are the best application you can have for those. So we're gonna demonstrate the deformer hierarchy real quick. I have to lower this again. So, as I said, you can't have deformers within deformers. So let's say we want to make we want to do the ribbons first. So I'm gonna explain to you guys how to wait. Before that though, we need a deformer folder so that we're clean and tidy with everything. So to make a new folder in Live2D, by the way, there's a folder icon right beside this little trash can in the parts window. So I made a deformer folder right there. So, and if you guys while I demonstrate, I recommend you guys make a new folder for now. So let's say we want this ribbon to swing around. So I'm gonna make a new deformer, a joint deformer. This is gonna help it. To move the deformer, we click Control, and we can set up basically everything. And wow, that's gonna dangle around. So next up, I want to make a deformer on the tail. So we're gonna add another rotation deformer. And let's put that in the deformer. Okay, let's make tail. And then when we click create, there's gonna be an error that shows up. So basically the rule for wait, let me show you the error actually. And that is, where is the error? Nope, that's not the error. This is the error. Okay. So this will be the error that shows up. It's gonna say, please create an object with the same parent deformer selected. So that means we're not following the deformer hierarchy. So as I said, we can't have deformers selected within deformers, because that's gonna give us that error. So the first deformer that we want to make, let me bring back Live2D real quick. And it's over here. And then transform, reset, transform. There we go. The first deformer we actually want to make. Also, I want to check in if you guys have your deformer folder. I have one right here. I moved it up the top because this will be basically what we'll be moving most of the time once we get to the parameters part. So the first deformer that we want to make is actually for all the layers. So we're going to Control A and we're going to make a rotation deformer. Now for the rotation deformer settings, we're going to be opening this window real quick. Alright, so this window is going to open up. What we want to do, it's going to say destination part. That's basically going to check out all the folders in Live2D. And I have a folder named Deformer. So I'm just going to put the deformer there. And the name of the object, basically we're selecting all layers. We could really name it anything we want. We can name it all layers. Or full. Everything. You can name it anything really, as long as it tells you what it does. For me, I like to write full, but for today I'm gonna write, actually you know what, I will write full. That's my signature. I'm gonna, because if we do the smaller layers later, it's gonna be very hard. So we'll put it back to Live2D. Transform, reset. Uh-oh, that's a little too big for us. Reset, transform. Okay, so as I said earlier, to move your deformer. Also, you might be asking why we're not going to be using a warp deformer for this one. And it's because we mostly, most of the time when you're moving your rig, you're not really warping anything. You're not gonna crumple up your whole rig like a piece of paper. Unless you want to, unless you're into that, of course. But Most of the time, what we're gonna do with a full rig, like if you have all the layers selected, what we mostly want to do is resize and also rotate. This is gonna be helpful if we ever need like an animation where they're walking or on their tippy toes. So that's gonna be really helpful. It's also rotation deformers can also help you move things. So once you set it up in the parameters, it's gonna be really easy to move things compared to the warp deformer. So okay, so now that we have, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the things we feel like are gonna move, and I'm gonna be just demonstrating what I think needs to be moved here. And of course, we're gonna start with things that have the most layers on them. So I'm gonna Control A again, make sure I don't have the deformer selected, and I'm gonna exclude the legs. And I think what needs to move next that has the most layers are the waist. So I'm gonna focus on rotation deformers first. So create, and where is it? It's over here. There we go. That's how the waist is gonna move. There we go. It's gonna go left and right. We're not really gonna resize it. That's for experimentation purposes. But yeah. Next thing, of course, after the waist, we want the head. So I know I said earlier that selecting things from the canvas is hard, but hey, a mixture of things can also help you out. So I'm gonna deselect a few things that we don't want selected. In that case, it was the torso. To deselect something, you can just click Control and go to the parts window, and just click Control in the parts window, and it's gonna deselect the layer that was selected. Alright, so I'm gonna add another rotation deformer. This is gonna be our neck deformer, neck rotation. So to move it, just click Control. We're gonna go left and right. There we go. To reset the position, we're not gonna... Actually, don't play with it too much, because it's gonna mess up a lot of the things that we have to move. Especially when you 360 it on accident, it's gonna move really wrong when it comes to the rig. So yeah. Okay. So after a lot of the layers, I think we can move on to warp deformers. So actually wait. Let's do all of the rotation deformers first. And that's gonna be a lot of the rotation. If you have layers that are just standalone, let's say just like this hand, and they're gonna have a single deformer on them, you can always do them. You can do them after, as long as you follow the rule of don't have deformers selected when you're making a deformer. That's basically the rule that we have. So we're gonna add a rotation deformer so that the arm is not gonna... so that the arm can like swing around and all that. Okay. Now it can swing around and do all those things. I can show you guys how to make this dynamic later on, but we're gonna be doing that after the deformers. But first of all, we're gonna do deformers. Also, think of deformers as like folders within for your rig. That's basically the role that the way I think of it. It's just gonna group all your layers, because you can't really move your layers in once you have all of them selected. So you're gonna have to be using the deformers. I've had an experience where someone gave me a model with a lot of folders, but it really messed up the way I do things. That's why I minimize the use of folders when making a model. So let's make arm R. That stands for arm right. And then I'm gonna move it here. Also, if you have a deformer that isn't in the folder, you can always just drag it and then put it in the folder. That was in the parts window if you didn't see that. So now we have arm rotation deformers. I don't think I want it to go there. You can always test out how it looks when it's moving, and you can like play around and see if the movement is correct. Just make sure to Control Z because, as I said, we want everything to be in the mixed place. We want everything in the fixed place, not mixed place. Alright. So, the tail is gonna have 2 layers. So, also, if you're on the canvas and you want to select multiple things, you shift click. You select one thing and then you shift click and it's gonna select multiple things. So we're gonna make another rotation deformer. Right now we're just setting up joints for everything. If you're an animation student, I think you know. I know we've done this before where we set up like rotation thingies. So yeah, you can always use the same principles on that lesson with this one. So I'm gonna make tail. Basically just making puppets here. There we go. Always test them out to check if the motion is good or not. You can always like move it as well. There we go. Also, if you feel like your proportions aren't right, you can always like edit them. You can always edit them within the program using your deformers. So just like right here, I think my head is a little too small, so I'm gonna resize it to make it more anime-like. There we go. Now it's the proportions that I like. So we're just gonna set up our rotations. And then we're gonna move on to our warp deformers. Ribbon. And I'm gonna repeat this all the time, but don't have deformers selected when you're making deformers. But it's always the rule. That's the basic explanation for the deformer hierarchy. And let's see. Let's say one of your layers is not included in the deformer. So you have to do your whole process again, but if you're deep into the process already, you can always just go to your deformer window. Okay. That's over here. It's right beside your parts window, by the way. But it's gonna have all your layers in blue. So it's gonna show our deformer hierarchy actually. And if we're missing let's say this leg is not a part of the full. So let's see what happens if we move the full deformer now. Let's reset transform. See, it's not gonna include the leg. Let's say we forgot to add that. You can always go to the deformer window, select the layer that you want to have, that you want to add into the deformer that you want to put it in. When I say deformer, just think of folder, by the way. Okay. And then you get it, you drag it, you put it under the deformer that you want to put it in, and then shabam. By the way, the name of the deformer should go yellow. And let's do that again, but without my overlay. So, see that? It's going yellow, and if I click it, it goes in. But if we just do like bottom, I mean, it still does the same thing either way. So that rule doesn't really apply. Okay, so I'm gonna put back my overlay. Okay. So, what deformers are we missing now? We have our ribbon. Now, deformer, ribbon, neck. And then control to edit the placement of the control to edit the placement of our deformer. Even the little line thingy will change. We'll also have the ears. Now, I have an issue here. My issue is that I didn't separate these layers. So, but I do have a fix for that. And that's, you Control C and Control V so that you duplicate your layer. Now we have 2 ears. Oh, that's not how we want to move it. So now we have 2 ears, but the other one is on the draw order of 1. That means it's on the topmost layer. So we just go back to whatchamacallit? We just go back to, wait, hold on. It's not in the same position. No, it should be, right? Hold on. I'm just aligning the 2 of them. Now you can always change the layer order by going to the parts window. So if something is on the top, you can always just drag it down. Or if it's way below down there, you can always drag it up. So that's how we edit the draw order in Live2D. Now, how do we cut this up? We click. Actually, no. To access this window, we just double click, and that's gonna show the thing we have earlier. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the mesh. We're gonna remove the mesh of the one side, and then delete. So it's just gonna be one side of the ear. And now for this one, we double click it as well. And we click the lasso tool on the tool details window. And we just delete the mesh. Now, if you have layers that have overlap, you can always just edit the mesh because it's going to remove that part completely. Now, okay, I accidentally... now we have our ears separated. So, voila. You can actually separate parts in Live2D. It's just easier to have them separated when you're drawing them in the drawing program. Alright. So, next up. Wait, by the way, how is my audio? I feel like it's a little too quiet. I just want to check up on you guys. Okay, it's good, it's good. Alright. So, I taught you how to cut it up. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue adding the rotation deformers to anything we feel like needs like a joint. So I'm gonna have ear L. The left ear is gonna have a joint here. Oh, I'm having an issue with my mouse. I feel like I need to buy a new mouse. So we're gonna test out the motion and see if it's good. It's pretty good so far. I think I did a little too much motion there. So let's add another rotation deformer. Make sure to have it in your deformer folder so that if you look at the top left corner of my screen, all the all the deformers are actually in that one folder named deformer. So we're gonna make... Okay. We don't want to make that mistake. We're gonna make ear R. Right ear. It's always easier to name them that way. By the way, if you notice, I don't name my layers. It's it's fairly easy to tell them apart because there's an icon on the corner, and if you want to check what layer that is, you can always just... But not all of us have good eyesight, so yeah. It's still good to name your layers when you're making a model. So now we have all the joints that we need so far. Yeah, I think that's all the joints right now. So we're gonna move on to adding warp deformers. So where do we actually want warp deformers? So warp deformers, we want them to be in something like the hair. So I'm gonna make a warp deformer for the hair. I'm just using the canvas to select it. And then we're gonna add it. I'm gonna make it a deformer called hair full. It's gonna be if you set up a warp deformer, if you forgot, it's just right beside the rotation deformer. It's just gonna open up a window that looks like looks the same as the rotation deformer. It just has the destination part and also the name. So just name it whatever you want. So now we have a we have a warp deformer for our hair. Also, something to note, if you want to move something, also now you can move like the points here with the warp deformer. But if you want something to snap to the grid, you can always hold shift and it's gonna go up, down, left, right in the grid. So yeah, that's how we make it uniform. I remember back when I started learning Live2D, I wasn't using the shift key, so things would just be everywhere and each side would not be uniform. Alright, so that's the hair. I think one misconception people have when making the model is that every part needs to be cut up. And I think that's not necessary really, unless the client really wants it to be cut up and more dynamic. But most of the time you can make things work. The one moving right now on my rig, let's move to a different scene. The one moving right now on the screen is actually just two layers of hair. And similar to this, it's just 2 layers of hair and also the highlight. So you don't need to cut up everything, by the way. As much as possible, have a maximum of 5 layers when it comes to making a model. So we're gonna have another warp deformer, and this one's for the bangs. We're actually gonna have 3 warp deformers for the hair, but I'll show you where the last one is. So next deformer is bangs 1. Bangs 1. That's there's gonna be 2 uses for the bangs having a warp deformer. Now we're gonna select the bangs again. I'm gonna add another deformer, bangs 2. So what are the 2? Actually, I'm gonna make the other one. Oops, we don't want to do that. To edit the warp deformer shape, we can always just click Control. We can even change the placement of the points without affecting the layers. So yeah. So what are these 2 warp deformers for? So bangs 1, we're gonna be using that for the perspective. That means it's not we're gonna be using it. I'll explain it later when we come to the parameter part. But this will be used for perspective, and the second bangs layer, the second bangs deformer will be used for physics. And physics is a really fun thing that we'll be tackling later. When I was a beginner, I wasn't taught physics, but I learned how to simplify it, and now I'm gonna share my thoughts with you guys. So, what else needs a warp deformer? I think the shirt needs a warp deformer. because I'm gonna be shirt. Alright. But we only I only want it to affect the bottom part. By the way, when you're making a deformer where some parts are not included, don't move the diagonal parts because it's gonna do this thing. And we don't want that. We only want to move these parts mostly. So yeah. Also, to show you what I mean by physics, if I move my hair, it's gonna follow along. That's gonna be the physics later, and it's gonna be a really fun topic to talk about. So, now that we set the shirt, I think that's all the deformers. And you might be thinking, hey, if I move this, it's gonna be really stiff, right? Yes, but there's a deformer that we have to use in the parameters stage later that will be really useful for that. Alright, so let's say we have all our deformers now ready. So we have everything here. I have all my deformers. These are all the deformers we need. And deformers are basically what we're all gonna move. Oh yeah, wait. I forgot a few deformers actually. That's gonna be the face for perspective later. Head perspective. Because if you notice, with my current rig, we're gonna be looking left and right. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to make a left and right looking rig. So, when it comes to perspective of the face, I want you guys to focus on the head, eyes, mouth, and the bangs. So actually, if you notice with my model, my nose layer is in the same layer as the head, and I don't have it separated. That's because it's not really gonna do much. Plus, it's not that noticeable because it's a really tiny nose. So next thing we want to the next warp deformer we want to add for perspective is the eyes. Wait, why do I have that selected? Now, you just select it from the parts window. It's usually in the same line of layers anyway. So, eyes, perspective. Create. Now we can move the eyes. Actually, we want to include the eyebrows here. So, I'm gonna find my eyebrow layer. It's over here. And I'm gonna add it to the eyes perspective. We can always just drag it below the deformer that we want to add it in. Now it's there. I'm just gonna edit it a little bit. Oh, that's not what we want to do. Control to edit the thing, and there we go. Alright, next thing we want to do is the mouth. Now, I think this is the confusing part when it comes to making a model, but the mouth is basically two parts. The mouth is... Wait, let me go to the parts window. The mouth is actually a top layer. Wait. Let's remove the head. It's gonna be a bottom layer and a top layer. And below that bottom and top layer is gonna be your mouth. And then the teeth. That looks horrifying, but we gotta respect the process. So this is gonna be the back of the mouth. Sometimes some people have the teeth included in this layer. So, but for this case, we want it to be more dynamic, so we're gonna have it as a separate layer. So bottom and top. And then we're gonna bring back the head so that we can see it. It's well blended when it comes to the top and bottom layer. So when we're making a model, we just want to like duplicate the head and like select the area around the mouth so that we can blend it properly. Alright, so next part we're gonna make a perspective, a warp deformer for is the mouth. This is gonna be used for the perspective of the head when you're looking at left and right. So, mouth perspective. Yeah, it's a horrifying thing to see. All right. So also, don't forget to save because this is a CPU heavy program. So it's gonna tell us to save as a CMO3. It's gonna save us as a CMO3 file. So just click enter if it's on the right directory. And there we go. Now it's saved. It's gonna open a new window, which is really annoying for Live2D to do, but bear with it. So now we have all our deformers. So we're gonna move to the next part, which is let's go back to the slide. Woohoo! Finally, we're back to the slides. It's been a while. So we're gonna go to parameters. And for parameters, we also have a special guest. And that is Tomatomagica, aka Nia. So who is Nia? Nia is a freelance illustrator based in Australia. Not only do they do illustrations, but they also do Live2D, Vroid, and logos. They also do some VTuber content themselves, so go check out their content. I'll be linking the channel later in the... I have their card linked in the description of the YouTube stream. So, let's watch this real quick. Give me a second. Maybe forgetting something here. Alright. I'm gonna be clicking this video. Tell me if you hear it, by the way. I'm gonna take away my rig.
Hi there, my name is Nia. You may also know me as Tomatomagica.
Oh.
I'm a full...
Wait, that might be heard. That might not be heard actually. Let me just add this. Sorry. Add this one. Okay. Now you should be able to hear it on the Zoom meeting. Gonna go back a few seconds.
Hi there, my name is Nia. You may also know me as Tomatomagica.
Now you hear it, guys, right?
I'm a full-time illustrator, but I also dabble into 3D and Live2D. And I'm going to explain parameters. So what exactly are parameters? In Live2D Cubism, parameters are a group of keyframes that manipulate parts of the model, making them move and preparing them for tracking and physics simulation. The easiest way to explain it is to think of it as an animation where object moves from point A to point B, though it is not limited to just two states, of course. The ways in which objects may change with parameters include but not limited to position, size, color, shape, and angle. To create a parameter, you need to click on a new parameter button at the bottom of the parameter menu, and this will open a prompt window where you can name it, give it a special ID, rules for which you can see if you click here, and then you can also specify the numbers which dictate the ranges within which the parameter operates. Perhaps the most important one is the default, because it affects the resting position for this specific parameter. All of this can be changed at any moment in the future, so there is no need to worry about this too much. So as you saw earlier, the keyframes operate on interpolation, meaning the frames gradually fade in and out of each other, creating a smooth animation. While widely used in Live2D models, smooth fade in out is not end-all be-all. There is a way to make keyframes change virtually instantly. And personally, I would love to see Cubism make smooth transition optional somewhere in the settings. But as of right now, the way to do it is to put keyframes as close to each other as possible on the timeline. If you look at the model that I'm currently using of my avatar, you will notice that the mouse shapes are not fading in and out of each other, creating smooth middle shapes. Instead, they are changing semi-instantly, making the mouth flaps look more like they do in the anime. Like I just said, the way to create this effect is to stack keyframes as close to each other as possible. Let me show you how to do that. Let's create a new warp for this object. Let's make a new parameter. And let's add a keyframe right here. And here. So as you can see, by making the keyframes on the opposite ends of each other, they will change gradually. But if we go into the keyforms editor and change the number of the value of the second keyframe from 30 to -29. I will put the keyframe really close to the first one. Thus making it move pretty much instantly. So it really depends on what kind of look you're going for, but normally the standard interpolation is completely fine as well. Thank you.
Alright. So, let's move to parameters. And we're gonna go back to our demo mode, which is this one. Alright. So, give me a second. There we go. Alright. So, we're gonna be focusing on the parameter window now. It's gonna be this thing with like the little lines and stuff and the dots. So, the first thing we want to do is actually remove the things that are unnecessary, which are a lot of the things at the bottom part. So, to select multiple, we just hold shift and then it's gonna go down. But to deselect something, we can just click control and it's gonna deselect it. Oh. Actually, no, it's not gonna work like that at all. So, I'm gonna delete cheek, body X, body Y, body Z. Not actually gonna use that because we're gonna rely a lot on the head movement. Let's not make sure to delete breath because it's in the same like area as those things. All right. So a lot of the brow actually has a lot of parameters as well. So we're gonna remove everything but brow angle and brow form. And then we're just gonna click our delete, or we click the trash can in the bottom right corner. I'm just gonna keep eye smile in case of experimentation. But yeah. Okay, so we're gonna focus on IX and actually no. Let's focus on the eyeball first, because a lot of the face movements we wanna focus on the face movements first, because we don't want it to be in the default face position. So what we're gonna do is, for the eyes, we're gonna be putting it in IR open or IL open, In this case, we're gonna use the left eye, and we're gonna go to the parameter named ILOpen. So where is ILOpen? It is, wait, let me bring back my overlay. Sorry for that. ILOpen is around here. Is around here. Now, let's go back. Aw, my chat box resetted. But I can still read everyone's comments. But we're gonna focus on ILOpen, and what we're gonna do is select all the layers but the pupil. And then, having the layer selected and the parameters selected, if you can see that it's grayed out, that means it's selected. We want to click this we want to click this three it looks like a P, 3 P's right beside each other, and it says add 3 keyforms. It's on the bottom, it's below the word parameter. So we just click that and it's gonna make 3 keyforms. I know these are called keyframes in video editing programs, but for Live2D it's called keyforms. Alright. So for the leftmost is gonna be the closed eye. So how are we gonna make a closed eye? So let's select everything again and deselect the closed eye one. So also in making a model, we want 2 eyelashes, one that's open and one that's closed. So to make an eye closed, just look at the demonstration I have right now. Make sure you have it on the leftmost keyform. To snap the keyform to snap on the keyform, you just right click and it's gonna snap into the nearest keyform that you have. So instead of moving it like this, we can always just right click on the little P, little green P. So we're gonna alt click. Oh wait, sorry. We're gonna have everything but the closed eyelash selected, and we're gonna drag it. We're gonna alt drag to the point that it's a line. Oh, actually, first, I was joking, sorry. First of all, we want to add a Deform Path edit. And we're gonna make one straight line with this thing. So where is the Deform Path edit? It's that it kind of looks like a planet in the orbit on over here. It's over here. It's that thing that's grayed out. So those are the Deform Path edit. And these are temporary deformers. So we're gonna add it to the layers that we have selected. We're gonna make a line, and then we click the cursor on the top right. We turn it into one big line. Oh, we don't want to rotate it. I turn it into one big line, and then we're gonna drag the middle of those 3 dots that we made into the middle of the eyelash. So, and then we drag those little dots and put it below the eyelash. Now it's gonna do this thing. It's gonna interpolate. And now for the right, and then we're gonna focus on the rightmost. We're gonna do the same thing we did for the eye. We're gonna make 1, 2, 3, one straight line. It doesn't have to be straight really, just as long as it's a line. And then we're gonna smush it down. And then we're gonna drag it into the middle of the eyelash. And then we do this. Just put it in the same shape or form as your eyelash. And now it's gonna do that. Now it's almost finished. We want to do the same thing. As you see, the temporary deformer is gonna stay there, but soon enough it's not gonna be. It's just gonna affect the lines. It's not gonna make a deformer or like a group folder kind of thing. So we're just gonna do the same thing as earlier. Now it looks like it's blinking immediately. But oh wait. In my case, I don't want it to blink immediately though. So we're gonna go to the middle one, middle keyform. We're gonna right click that one. Select. We can actually right click and there's gonna be a drop down menu that shows up. Actually, hold on. Let's there's gonna be a drop down menu and there's gonna be a word that says select. Select, reflect, and adjust. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna squish it like she's we're not gonna squish it from there, but we're gonna squish it down. So now it has the motion of blinking. So let's deselect all that real quick. Now it's blinking. Now we want to do things manually, but I prefer to do things manually, but I can also teach you how to I can actually import the same motion to the other eye, but in my opinion doing it manually is still better to me because there's gonna be errors and stuff. So let's do the same thing. It doesn't really take a long time. We just basically do the same thing for the other part of the eye. So we go to the parameters, select everything but the... So we select everything but the pupil, and we go to IR open, which means we're selecting everything from the right eye. So we add 3 keyforms. We deselect the closed eye, go to the leftmost keyform, drag it, add the 3 lines. Oh, that's not what we want to do. Add the 3 lines. Oh, I think I selected the wrong layer. So what we're gonna do is add those 3 lines from earlier. We go to Deform Path. 1, 2, 3. We make 1 straight line, and then we drag it until it's you can't see it anymore. Put the middle dot in the middle. Make it the same thing, and then boom. Then we do the same thing for the lower eyelash. 1, 2, 3. And then, actually I'm gonna use my tablet. But at times, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's the ear. Okay. So we're gonna... Also, to change the position of it, you can always click Control. If you might start seeing a pattern here, but moving things with Control is always like, I don't know, it's like you always have to move things with Control. But for rotation deformer, you can actually change the size of the arrow with Alt. So yeah, that's handy, but most of the time we just don't need those. Now that we have those, squish it. Oh, the hell. Oh, that's because we're over here. Now that it's squished down, we move to the middle, and then we put this here, and then we put that there. Now, it's not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna do it again on the middle keyform. Alright. Then that, and then we just have to squash everything. Okay, now it's a little too squashed. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now we have a closing eye. And an open eye. Now, The thing that's gonna be hard to do is the mouth. This part will take a while, but it just takes patience. So when it comes to the face, we have a lot of... When it comes to the face, we have to use the Deform Path a lot. So we just select this one. And then we just select the Deform Path. Uh-oh, I just... Alright. So we go back to the Deform Path, and for this one, we're not gonna make 3. We're gonna make 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's in the case if you want your character to make the cat mouth. Now there's also the bottom part of the lip. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, much better for this is we go to our auto mesh generator and put it on heavy. And then we can make it smaller by tinkering with the settings. We want to do that the same way with our auto mesh. Heavy. And then let's just tinker with some of the settings. And then boom. Now we have more triangles. Now it's gonna be more smoother than last time. Alright, so to play with the mouth, we want to find the parameters named mouth form and mouth open. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna link them together. So how do we link them? We just click the little rectangle at the side, and it's gonna link the parameter right below it. So now we have a square. I did the same thing in angle X and angle Y, because that's going to be the perspective that we have later on. So we're going to focus on the mouth, and we're going to click the 3 dots, and we actually have a guide. Let me just find the mouth guide for Live2D. I'm sure there's a mouth guide in Google that you can find, but most of the time, leftmost keyform is always... wait, where's my Live2D? I lost it. There it is. Most of the time, leftmost keyform is a sad face, so I'm gonna open my old rig. Recent file. I'm actually gonna open my old rig so that you can see it. So for the mouth form, leftmost side is a sad face, rightmost side is a happy face, and then same thing, but at the leftmost side it becomes an O, like an O. And these are just your basic mouth forms. So I didn't add enough meshes for the mouth of this one, that's why we're updating it. Also, if you want to do this, you can always just... We can also do the eyeball, X and Y as well. You just have to select the 2 of them. And then, if you want to go up, you go up. Want to go down, right click that, and then go down. And then, looking right. And then, looking left. How about the corners though? Well, the corners, we can always click this burger icon, the one with the 3 dots, and then there's gonna be a thing that says synthesize corners. So we can click that, eyeball X and Y, okay, and then it's gonna do the corners for us. It automates everything, which is pretty good. And now, let's do the mouth. So for the mouth, we're gonna do the top and bottom mouth. Alright, so for the middle one, we want it to be a neutral mouth kind of feel. We don't want it to be smiling at all. Now it's gonna overlap a little bit, but worry not. We can always have a tool for that, and there's actually a, what do you even call this tool? Oh wait, no. Rather than editing the tool, we can actually edit the layer itself and then just make it smaller and tinier. Oh wait, it's not added to the keyform, so make sure everything in your mouth layer is added to the keyforms. So we make it smaller like that. We don't want to rotate it. I don't think mouths rotate in anime characters. So that's gonna make a neutral smile. Now we're gonna make a sad face. Make a sad face. You drag it out. And then it's not perfect, but I'm still getting used to it. So let's just make this smaller. So that you can't see it. Now sad face, neutral face, happy face. Now let's do the mouth opening. So for the middle part of the mouth, this is basically your half open mouth. So most of the time it's just gonna look like that. And then for this one, let's have it open like this, just one part of it. And then for the sad face, I kind of just want to do the same thing, but okay. And then basically what we want to do is make it smaller, because they're gonna be saying they're gonna be making like an O face. So like kind of like a whistling face. So half smile, half neutral smile, and then kind of like a whistling face. So now for the biggest eye, now we're gonna make the biggest mouth, the most open one. Oh, kind of overlap there a little bit. Let's just lower it, and then lower the teeth. Now you see it moving up and down, and it's gonna open up. We're gonna make this one a neutral smile, so it's not gonna be like a smile, a full smile. It's just gonna be like that, and then we're still gonna move down the teeth. Now for this one, we're gonna do the same thing. Oh, we're not selecting the right layer. Gonna be doing the same thing. Make them go like O. Okay, sometimes it's gonna move the wrong thing, so we want to... Okay. And then we move this down here. And then we're gonna make them go... Oh. So that's gonna be our O face. Now we have all our mouth keyforms. Now they're gonna talk. Though I need to fix this part. I might have to fix this part because it's really wonky and it looks like an SFM face. Sometimes people just don't add the sad face. That's why you rarely see VTubers go sad when they're playing a horror game. So these are basically what we just want to have. Alright. So next up, the hard part, which is angle X and angle Y. Now, where are deformers? We want to turn off the visibility for the bangs. Now what we want to do here is get the head perspective deformer and then add 3 keyforms. Now you're gonna have a middle, top, bottom, left, right, left, and then the corners. We can always have synthesized corners for this one. So what we're gonna do is we click the X so that we lose the transform, the red part of the deformer. Now we're gonna click Shift and we're gonna just drag it up. It's a little awkward to see the eye, so we can always turn that off. And the eyebrow. You can make it look up. Oh. Make sure you're on the right keyform. So when you're going up, you click the up keyform. And also when you're looking up, the bottom part of your face actually turns smaller. So now you see the perspective changing. And then when you look down, you click the middle deformer, and then your face actually goes chubbier when you're looking down. So now you see the movement. Now when you look left, click the middle part, and then we change this part. Make this smaller and then put it up. Now it's looking left. Now we can always change this. And a nice thing to do for this one is reflect motion. Armors are not combined. Wait. Hold on a second. Oh. Yeah. Wait. We have this thing, and then synthesize corners, and then reflect motion. I'm not exactly sure why it's doing that, but we can always just do it manually. I'm getting an error for it. So we just click X, and then we shift drag, and now it's in the perspective that we want. And now we're gonna go back to the middle and then click synthesize corners. And now it's gonna interpolate everything for us. Now our head will be looking up, down, left, and right. Next up, we want to work on the bangs. So we turn the bangs visible again, and then we go to bangs 1. What we want to do is click X again, and then add 3 keyforms. And then we just follow along with the perspective. So this one's the one looking left. We click X so that we can move the middle part. Now we're gonna make the hair look left as well. We're gonna pull this up. Oh wait. I guess we're not gonna move that part. We're gonna make it look left. Same with the other side. Gonna make that part also look left. And if something is like overlapping, we can always just change it. We can always just do these. We can always drag it to the place we want it to go to. So going down, you can always drag the hair and then drag this down as well. Now it's looking up and down. Now this one is looking up, so we drag it up and then synthesize corner to automatically add the corners. Now it looks like it's looking up and down. So next up is the tricky part, which are the eyes. So we're gonna select eyes perspective, add 3 keyforms. When they're looking up, you just drag it up, and then you get and then you drag until you get to the middle, and then you click shift, and then it should enlarge that part. Oh wait. No. We should be clicking the bottom part and then enlarge it. Now, to the bottom part, we're gonna select eyes perspective again, drag it down, and then get the top part, and then scale it up. You might have to drag this up a little bit because it's a little too low. Now, you can see the eyes going up and down. Now for left and right, we just drag it to that side, and then we drag, and then we have these parts selected. So we're just gonna squish it until it looks that side. Now we're gonna have to move it again because it doesn't look like it's facing that part of the face. It's a little too... Okay, there we go. Now they're looking at the left side. Now we're gonna do the same thing. Oh wait, no. That was the right side, so we're gonna move it here. And then this one, we're gonna squish it down. And then there we go. And then we're gonna click synthesize corners again. So now it's gonna look in every direction. Next part is the mouth, which is fairly easy because it's a really tiny part. Why is this mouth so big? Let me just fix that real quick. Alright. Next up is the mouth. So we're gonna add that to the perspective. We just add 3 keyforms. When it's looking up, we just drag it up. When it's looking down, we just drag it down. And then when it's looking left, we do the same thing we did with the eye. We just center it with the nose. We get the right part and then we make it smaller. We do the same thing with the other side of the face. Center, drag, and then just squish it down. Now, that should be good. Now mouth, and then synthesize the corners to automatically make it. Now your face is looking left, right, and everywhere. Alright. So now that the hard part's done... Oh, where's our eyebrows? Now that the hard part's done, we can get to the easy parts. Angle Z is just your head rotation. And then we add 3 keyforms. Left for left. Right for right. And that should be good. Now, eyeball. Eyeball's pretty good. Brow angle. Now, for the brows, I try not to separate them. So I'm gonna do the same thing we did as the mouth. With the mouth. And we just add 5 deformers. I mean 5 points. Using the temporary deform path. And I usually don't want it to be... I usually want them to be uniform, so I just keyform it to one parameter. In this case, I'm gonna do brow angle L, So leftmost side is going to be the angry face. We're going to lift up the corners and then we're going to lower it. And then we're going to make the forgiving face. I'm just going to put it up. Now it should look like that. Middle is always the neutral part. Don't forget to save. And breathing. Now, we're gonna get to the really... Oh, wait. There's actually another part of the angle X and Y. You can actually experiment with this part a lot. And that's using the waist. So for this, what I did for the angle X and Y, I used the waist to make her whole body go up and down. That's why we deleted body X and body Y, because we can always just track it on the face. Now, we get the waist rotation. We make a keyform on angle X and Y. And then, when she's looking up, we go up. When she's looking down, we go down. When she's looking left, we want to rotate right. And when she's looking left, we rotate left. Now we synthesize the corners. Now her whole body is looking the direction she wants to look at. We also want to add, this is optional, but if you have a half body rig, we can always just not do this part, but in this case we have legs, so we're gonna make a new warp deformer for this one because I forgot. Legs. If the layer has if you forgot one deformer, you can always add it later as long as it's like not gonna have any issue. So we're gonna add it here. When she looks up, her knees go up. When she looks down, her knees go down, and then they flatten. And then when she's looking left, I kind of just move this part to the left. Now synthesize the corners. Though it is a little too much, so we can always just experiment with it. So for now, I'm just gonna try not to affect the legs. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna put it down. Oh, wait, since she's looking up, we're gonna put it up. And she's looking down. Just doing this thing. Then synthesize corners. We're not even gonna do left and right. Okay, since it looks a little off, we are gonna do left and right. So synthesize corners for that. That's looking pretty nice. That looks like she's bouncing up and down. Always nice to play with your parameters because it's like playing with a puppet. So make sure to save so that your file doesn't break. Now, we're going to be focusing on physics. For physics, we're going to have to make new parameters. And that's by clicking new parameter, X physics. You can name it whatever you want, but it can be up physics, down physics, left, right, up and down physics, left and right physics. Okay, so we're gonna make a X physics layer. I don't know where it went, but we want it to be in the most lower part. Alright. So X physics, Y physics. You might be thinking why I'm disregarding the breath layer, and that's because we can always, it's not really that necessary, especially when you're moving a lot. It's only, the breath layer is only really noticeable when you're idle, and it's nice to always use the breath layer for experimental things such as the tail in the current on my rig right now. So we're gonna focus on the physics. For the breath, as I said earlier, we can always use it for experimental motion, so we can always do this and then down. And that's gonna be our breath motion. Anything that's moving constantly is a great thing to put on the breath parameter, because it's constantly gonna be doing this breathing motion. Alright, so physics. These are basically what will be swaying. So in this case, we want to do the hair physics. A lot of people love the hair physics on rigs, and it's what really makes us mesmerized by it. So we're gonna do hair full, X physics for everything that moves left and right, Y physics for everything that moves up and down. So we're gonna make 3 keyforms on the X physics parameter. Left. Okay, so sometimes the edit level will change. Edit level 1 for warp deformers looks like this. There's no middle, it's only gonna be 4 points. Same with the 3, it's gonna be 4 points, so we can only do the corners. But with 2, we mostly want to use the edit level 2. So it's gonna sway left, and then for that we're gonna sway right. Also gonna have a little bit more. Oh, I guess we can't have a little bit more. And now that bangs 2 will come in handy, since it's gonna add a little more dynamic. It's gonna add a lot of dynamic into our hair. We also kind of want to have a separate warp deformer on the hair at the back. So back hair. You can always add that to the X physics, because sometimes having more than 2 layers might mess up the current layer we're moving. So we add this little corner right here. It might be moving wonky if you can see that. Now, to fix this, we kind of want to have that included. I'm a little confused by why this is happening. It's because of the hair full thing. Yeah, I think we wanted to make it make it more dynamic, so we're just gonna move the individual layers, the individual deformers, I mean. So I'm gonna move that there. And for the right side, it's gonna moving on that side. Now, for the bangs 2, you can always have these. Then that should be good. I'll teach y'all how to set these up later on. Nope, we're not gonna move that. For the way to move this part of the hair, I'm gonna be using a I keep forgetting what this is called. There's a name for it. Kind of like a smudge tool. I forgot the name of it, but yeah. I'm gonna make it 300, and we're gonna use the single layer. Oops. Left. And then right. Now that part is moving now. It's not gonna be noticeable once we actually add the thing. Okay, now next is, as I said, physics is basically everything that sways left and right and up and down. For X physics, it's everything that's left and right. Just think of like a cold breeze. Alright, so we're gonna add a deform path. We add a 3. This is really helpful in making these. Uh-oh. Always make sure you have keyform set, or else you're gonna have to do everything all over again. It's a trial and error. So now it's swaying really nicely. Now we're gonna do this one next. X physics. Make sure it goes left and right. Left for left, right for right. And then we're gonna have a deform path for more dynamic. We're only gonna be moving the bottom part. So it sways like that. It sways like this. Now you should see that. Everything that sways is now looking like it's gonna sway fine later on. But you might think, isn't there a little too much sway? We can always change the settings for that later on. So next one is Y physics. Something that has Y physics is also the bangs. So we can always hold on a second. Okay, we're gonna set the Y physics, and it's gonna be everything that moves up and down. Up for right, down for left. We shouldn't affect that. This one, and then that one. This goes up. And then nextly, this one goes down. And then we're gonna do the back hair next. You can always experiment with how you want this to look. So I'm gonna keyform it there. So down and then up. There we go. Now it's gonna bounce up and down. For these ones, you can always just use the deform paths. Up. Oh, didn't set it. Up. This one goes up. Oh, I did the opposite of it. And then down. Up, down, up, down. Now for this one, up. Oh wait, no. I did the opposite again. Set the keyform down, and then up. Now, everything should bounce down, up and down now. Next one we have is our shared layer, as I said, I also want this to sway and bounce up and down. So I'm gonna set it now. It's gonna go there. It's gonna go there. And then for the Y physics, it's gonna go up and down. Up. Oh. Up. And then down. When we're going up and down, our hands also bounce up and down as well. So let's get these as well. So when you're going up, your hands raise up. When you're going down, your hands kind of tense up a little bit. So that's gonna be the motion that we have here. There's also the ears, but this is optional, as this character has otherworldly ears. Fictional features, you might say. Okay, now Y physics. Some things are just applied to the Y physics, and some things are just applied to the X physics. Now go down, and then go up. To make this more dynamic, we can always have a Deform Path layer. A Deform Path like this one. So when it goes up, always drag it out. And make it twist a little bit. Now it's a little more dynamic. Gonna do the same thing for this one. Gonna keyform it. When it goes down, it scrungles down like that. And this one twists like that. Now, the physics is fairly easy. You can even connect them together. Up and down, left and right. Up and down, left and right. So those are our physics. Now, we're gonna talk about how we're gonna set the physics. Finally, we're going back to our slides. But first, I'm just gonna take a bathroom break. So I'll be right back real quick. We're gonna have a little 5-minute break, okay? Hello. I know that wasn't 5 minutes, but alright, now we're back. I was just taking a bathroom break and a water break. Alright, so now we're gonna go back to our slides. I hope you all missed the slides. Oh wait, that's not the slides. our dear canvas slides. So that's the physics parameter that we just made, the x physics and the y physics. Everything that goes up and sways left and right. Now we can finally focus on the physics. How do we add these physics and how do we start making things move left and right? So the thing that makes your thing jiggle. So to set up physics, we actually first have to okay. Let's go back to our demo. So first of all, we actually don't have to open that first, but right beside our I forgot what it's called, our manual mesh tool, which is this one. It's this one. Right beside that, to the left of it, there is a thing that has a person on it. So we want to click that first. And that's called the texture map. Or the texture atlas. So it's going to open a window. And that window is going to say this. Okay. So let's move it real quick. Let's say goodbye to the slides for a bit. Now my mouse is being very weird. So now we have this window, the texture atlas. The texture name, I just name it fish, just because that's the character's name. And then the width, we don't want it to be 1000 by 1000. That's a little too small. But we also don't want it to be 4000 by 4000 because that's a little too big now. So the sweet spot to have here is 2048. So 2048 by 2048 will probably work best. So you just click OK, and now that setting should be good. Now we reset it. Now it should open something like this. In this case, we just want to click OK. It's on the bottommost. We usually can't see that, but we'll click OK, and that's gonna set up that's basically gonna set up the texture. And now we go back here, we click modeling, and we go to open physics setting. Open physics / blending setting. Hold on. Now it should open a window like this. If you don't know where it is, this guy can tell you where. It's right there. Alright. So now we have our physics settings. It's a little locked. But here we go. These are the physics setting. Now, anything you set on the breathing motion is going to start breathing. Also, if you click around the keys, it's gonna follow around where you're looking. Now, to add a... Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Now, to make a new physics group, well, to make physics, we need a physics group first. So, to make a physics group, there is a thing that says add. So, we're gonna add, and next up, 1 second. So the name for it could really be anything you want. I just kind of key smash most of the time. And we want to use head input. And physics model, we want to use double pendulum. But if you want to get experimental, you can also have triple pendulum. So we click OK to that. And now we have a double pendulum. So now, let's go back to the slides. We want to focus on input and output settings. And also, we want to check on the, so let's focus on input first. And let's go back to the demo mode. And we're gonna open up the window. Now, we're gonna change the settings here to from angle Z to angle Y. And now, I'm gonna change the effect for angle X to 50. And I'm gonna change the type. Okay, let me actually change it. I'm gonna change the type of angle Y to position X. And now I'm gonna make it 50 as well. That should be good now. Now, it's not gonna do anything yet. So if we move our cursor around, it still does the same thing. Except there's a little string here. Now we're gonna go to output settings and we're gonna click add. It's right below the word input settings, by the way. It's right over there. And it's gonna say add. So we're just gonna add our X physics and Y physics parameters. It's gonna ask us what parameters we wanna add. Now we have it there. Now let's go back. And for scale, we can choose between by 10. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever floats your boat, but 50 I'd say is the most strongest. So also, yes, this is going to be saved on YouTube. So the scale is, in my opinion, the one that works the best is 30. But if 30 works a little too much, we can always lower it. So now we can test it out. Now there's physics, but I think there's a little too much physics. So we're gonna lower it down to 20. 20. Now let's check the physics here. Now that's a little too little. You think so? I think it looks a little too little. So maybe we can shake it around and make the X physics back to 30, but the Y physics down to 20. So now when we sway, it's very strong, but when we look up and down, it's quite mild. So actually, you can test out your rig just by going into the physics setting and clicking this play thing. It's going to show you what it looks like when it's talking, when it's moving. It's going to start showing the emotes, where it's looking at, the corners and all that stuff. So you don't really have to open a program you don't really have to open your VTubing program to set this up. In fact, since we're a little over time, we're gonna skip the importing part. We're just gonna learn how to export. So now the physics should be saved. So we're gonna X this. And now we're gonna move to exporting it. So let's go back to Live2D. And transform, reset. Okay, so now we're back to Live2D. And to export it, we just go back to File. Also, don't forget to save. So, S. Also, by the way, your physics autosave, so you shouldn't worry too much about it. Now, to export, we just do export for runtime. And then export as mock file. And it's going to open a window that looks like this. Export settings. Then there. These are going to be what shows up. And what we want to check is export physics, user data, and display information. And what we want to change here, we don't want it to be 1, but we do want it to be 2. That means we're gonna export something 2 times the size. Actually, no. Make sure it doesn't go above 3 because 3 is gonna lag our everything up. So our canvas height is gonna be times 2. So it's gonna be 1.33. And we just click OK on it. And it's gonna show us a file directory. It shouldn't show that. Okay, I'm gonna close that because that's gonna dox me. So what you want to do is make a new folder. There should be a new folder icon there. And copy the name of your Mach 3 file. Make a new folder. Paste the name of it and remove the .mach 3 name. And then save. Basically, you'll have a folder with the same name as your file. And now it's gonna show something like... let me just screenshot it and then put it on the Canva. It's gonna show something like this. So I'm gonna put it on Canva. It should show something like that. And the folder's name is also Tuyo VTuber V5, so it's supposed to be the same name. Alright. Now, I think that's the last part of the workshop, so we're gonna say hi to our last speaker. We're gonna skip all of these and we're gonna start talking about clients. So, for our last speaker, we have Webemez. So, who is Webemez? Webemez is a Georgia-based virtual influencer working on YouTube since 2012. They're a very cool and cute micro-celebrity, so please follow them. Now, let's hear what they have to say about clients in the Live2D industry.
Hi everyone, I'm Web. I'm a virtual YouTuber and I use a Live2D avatar. As a client for Live2D, I don't know what to ask of the artist. What things do I specify? As a Live2D artist, what can you say to calm a client's worries? Simple things that make a client feel better, showing examples of your work. So if you've made Live2D models in the past, you can show off some of that. Even if it's not specifically a VTuber model, if you show them something that you've made, they know you can do it. So it helps them and it eases their worries. Helping a client learn what they want. A lot of the time, we don't know what we want. Especially newcomers who's never gotten a model before. The idea is we want something to move, but how does it move? What does it move? Where does it move? These are all really important questions that you should tell the client after you learn during this hello, woo! Knowing when to say no if you're unable to make what they want. So if you are told by a client, oh my gosh, I'd really, really love these eyes to swirl around and shake and do all these crazy things, but you don't know how to do it? Learning it might not be the easiest option. A lot of the times, there's not a place to learn these things because the YouTube videos only learn the basics, and you may need to ask others for help, which will extend the time that you're working on the project, thus making it more stressful and harmful to your health while doing it. So make sure you know when to say no. Now, this one's super important, explaining the process to it. Like I said earlier, clients have no clue what you're doing. We know you're making something move and we know you're doing a really good job of it, but we don't know how it does. So explain them how long it will take, what parts do what you can do, what you can't do, very clearly in the beginning when working with a client. And make sure you show works in progress. A lot of clients are afraid. They're afraid of being left behind with no works, no progress. They're afraid of being ghosted. I have been ghosted in the past. Nobody wants that. There's no reason for you to take a job that will force you to worry. Be on the lookout for these signs of a bad client. When you're done? When are you done? Hey, are you done yet? Hearing this from a client's horrible. But it doesn't always mean it's a bad client. If they're rushing the progress of your process, maybe don't work with them. Remember, the more stress you have, the harder it is to finish a job. So make sure you don't overstress yourself or overwork yourself. Never work with a client that doesn't care about your health. If a client asks for a job done in 3 days, that probably won't happen. You probably won't be able to do a job in 3 days. That's an unreasonable deadline. So, unreasonable deadlines are real. People believe in them because they don't know how long this process takes. As long as you explain the process to the client beforehand, this shouldn't happen. But if it still does while you're working, run. Run. I don't know what else to say. It's scary having a bad client. So stay safe. Avoid them. This is one of the many signs. There's so many more. Indecisive client. Now, it makes sense for somebody who has never done this before not to know what they want or how to what they want. But if you show them a work in progress, and the work in progress you show them, they don't have any response, any idea of what should go next, they don't have any changes until you're done, after the works in progress are shown, make sure they don't have any changes for that specific thing you're working on. Because if they do it once, they'll do it again. Everybody wants to see how they look with a different hairstyle. Everybody wants to see how their hair will move different. Everybody wants to see how this would work and this would work. But that doesn't mean it's worth doing it because they won't use it in the final. So make sure not to overwork yourself and do this crazy stuff where you have to make the hair short, the hair long, the hair short, the hair long. There's no reason to do that. I won't pay you if you don't do what I say. This is my least favorite kind of client. I won't pay you if you don't do what I say. It's very self-explanatory. The client will not pay you. They're not gonna do it. And even if you do what they say, if they find a little tiny piece to nitpick, that's too bad. They won't pay you. Don't work with people like that. I'll pay you when you're done. Man, does this make me angry. I too am an artist. I work on different things as well. I understand that it's important to get half up, half down, or perhaps all up, or even 10% up when you're paying someone. It's important to make sure you don't sell yourself too low, or make sure they pay early in the beginning. These two factors make you a faster working artist, because money is 100% an accelerant in your progress. Somebody's paying you more and they pay you ahead of time, great, you know you have to get it done, or else you won't get the rest of the money. So, don't work with clients who only pay you when you're done, because they decide when you're done. If they don't like it, they say you're not done. Keep working. And remember, clients and artists go hand in hand. If you want to work together and have a good experience, make sure you're open with your client and speak to them often about the job. Because it's such a large time frame, never ghost a client. Thank you for having me, CIIT. I hope I can commission one of you in the future. You can find me on Twitter at AnnInsman or on YouTube at WEBEMEZ. Bye now. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope you have a great time during this workshop.
Alright, so since we're a little over time, we're gonna have to end the workshop here. And I'm so happy to have all of you guys into the join this workshop. I'm very grateful, and I'm happy that all of the efforts finally came through. So yeah, thank you for joining our workshop. I'm gonna stop streaming right here, and also the certificates will be given to the respective emails that everyone put in the Zoom registration. So thank you. I'm gonna end the stream right now. Bye bye.